They say religion brings peace, that it offers salvation, meaning, direction. But have you ever felt, in the quiet space behind all the rituals, that something is missing? Have you ever sat in a sacred place, repeating words passed down from generations, and yet felt strangely disconnected from yourself? You do everything right. You bow, you pray, you read the texts, you follow the rules, but deep inside, there's a silence that feels hollow, not peaceful, just empty. And you wonder, why do I feel farther from myself the more I try to be closer to God? This is the hidden tension, the paradox no one dares to say aloud. The more you try to follow religion, the less free you feel. You begin as a seeker and end up as a follower, not of truth, but of tradition, not of the divine, but of dogma. You start with a longing to know yourself and end up afraid of yourself, afraid to question, afraid to doubt, afraid to breathe outside the boundary. Because religion, as Osho said, has done something subtle and tragic. It has replaced the living search for truth with dead systems of belief. Religion has imprisoned the spirit of man, Osho once said. It has poisoned the wells and called the poison holy. That's a hard thing to hear, because for many, religion is sacred. It's comfort, it's community, it's structure. But Osho wasn't here to be polite. He was here to be real, to peel back the gold-plated walls of every spiritual system and show you what lies beneath: control, fear, repetition. The cage is beautiful, but it is still a cage, and the soul was never meant to live in one. In this video, we're not going to argue against anyone's faith. We're not here to shame or reject tradition. We're here to ask the most dangerous question: what if religion is the very thing that keeps you from your own awakening? What if obedience has replaced awareness? What if worship has replaced wonder? What if following has replaced freedom? Osho didn't want you to be religious. He wanted you to be real. He didn't ask you to kneel. He asked you to wake up. He said, truth is not a ritual. It is a rebellion. And that rebellion begins not with shouting, but with silence, with the courage to sit with your own questions, without needing someone else's answers. Maybe you've been told what to believe for so long, you've forgotten how to look for yourself. Maybe the fear of being wrong has kept you from discovering what's actually right for you. In today's video, we won't give you another system. We won't tell you who to follow or what to reject. We'll just gently explore what happens when the soul stops bowing and begins listening, when it stops repeating and starts remembering. And maybe, just maybe, the divine isn't found in a temple or a doctrine or a book. Maybe it's found in a breath, in a pause, in a moment of being completely yourself, without guilt, without permission, without belief, not against religion, but beyond it, where truth is no longer something you inherit, but something you experience, firsthand, wordless, free. The greatest crime against spirituality has been committed by the so-called organized religions. They have created followers, not seekers. They have manufactured belief, not understanding. Osho, the Book of Understanding. Osho didn't reject the divine. He revered it deeply, but he saw something that many spiritual leaders refuse to acknowledge. Religion has become a substitute for the sacred, not a bridge to it, but a barrier. It teaches you about God, but it never lets you discover the divine in your own breath. It fills your mind with holy words, but silences your inner voice. Encourage the joy of living dangerously. Osho writes, a truly religious man has no religion. He lives in wonder, not in worship. His prayer is not to a God above, but to the truth within. That's what religion has taken from us. Wonder. It replaced mystery with doctrine, freedom with obedience, exploration with fear. How does it happen? Osho explains it simply. As children, we are born with eyes open, curious, alive, ready to experience. But we're handed beliefs before we can even ask questions. This is your God. This is your book. This is your enemy. This is your path, and there is no other. By the time we're old enough to question, we've already been trained to be afraid of questioning. And fear, Osho reminds us, is the foundation of all organized religion. If you can make a person afraid, he said, you can control them. So religion teaches sin, teaches hell, teaches karma as punishment, not as understanding, but as manipulation. And in that fear, we start to obey. We don't seek truth. We seek safety. We don't ask what is real. We ask what is allowed. And so we follow, not because we've found truth, but because we've been told it's dangerous to look. This is the prison without bars, made of beliefs, maintained by guilt, guarded by ritual. You attend ceremonies, you memorize scriptures, you bow at the right time, and yet you feel no closer to yourself, because you were never invited into yourself. You were taught to look outward, to depend on a system, to seek approval from an invisible sky god, and from the institution that claims to speak on his behalf. Osho stood in direct opposition to this. He said, "No priest has the key to your soul. You are the only temple worth entering." It's why he was feared by every religious hierarchy, because he didn't want to destroy belief. He wanted you to outgrow it, to grow so inwardly conscious that belief becomes irrelevant, that you no longer believe in God. You feel the sacred in every cell, not in churches, not in rituals, but in silence, in presence, in the moment your thoughts stop and being begins. And that kind of awakening, no religion can package it. No institution can control it. That's why they call it dangerous. But Osho called it liberation. In love, freedom, aloneness, he writes, religiousness is not in the crowd. It is in solitude, when you are utterly alone, and yet full, empty of belief, but overflowing with being. He wasn't against prayer. He was against prayer as performance. He wasn't against sacredness. He was against sacredness being monopolized. He wasn't against truth. He was against anyone claiming to own it. Because truth is not a system. It's an experience. And the more layers religion puts between you and that experience, the farther you drift from the source. Osho asked his listeners to be rebels. Not angry rebels, not violent ones, but gentle rebels. Those who quietly walk away from inherited belief and into direct knowing, not to prove a point, not to argue with priests, but to reclaim the one thing that religion fears the most. A human being who sees clearly, who feels freely, who awakens without permission. This is what religion cannot allow, because a free spirit doesn't kneel. And Osho's message was clear. If you want to meet the divine, don't look up, look in. Now, no more arguments, no more ideologies, no more systems to defend or destroy. Just this, a breath, a silence, presence that needs no name. You've walked through traditions, through sermons and scriptures, through questions and rebellions. And here you are, not in a temple, not on your knees, but in yourself. No borrowed rituals, no sacred phrases, just the pulse of being. Osho never told you what to believe. He only asked you to see, not through the eyes of fear, not through the lens of tradition, but through the raw simplicity of awareness. He said, drop all beliefs and suddenly you are in the divine. It was always there, only your beliefs were in the way. So, what remains when all beliefs fall? When you let go of what you were taught and listen for what was never taught, only felt, can you sit in that space? Not to find something, not to fix anything, not to reach enlightenment, just to sit, to breathe, to be. Osho never gave you the answer. He simply pulled back the curtain so you could see for yourself. No priest between you and the sacred. No gatekeeper guarding the infinite. Just you and the mystery. Maybe the truth doesn't come from worship. Maybe it comes from witnessing. Maybe the divine was never hidden, only buried beneath centuries of belief. And maybe you don't need to leave your religion. You just need to leave behind the need for religion. to step beyond the cage, not with bitterness, but with quiet clarity, to remember that what you're looking for was never in the temple. It was in the silence before the prayer, the breath before the thought, the stillness that arises when the mind stops performing. Maybe you don't need another scripture. Maybe you don't need someone else's voice. Maybe you just need a few minutes of silence, and to truly listen to yourself, to existence, to the space beyond belief. Right now, let that be your prayer. Let that be your liberation. Let that be enough.